Yeah, good morning, everybody. We are doing this by Zoom at the moment, as well as a tin can. And Zoom should hopefully enable our colleagues out in the homes and schemes to see the presenters as well as to see the slides as well. The only thing that we've got a tricky thing with is videos. So there were going to be two videos that we were going to include within the presentation today. We're going to show those at the end for the benefit of colleagues from Epworth House, but they are on the Common Drive and they were circulated when we came back from the conference. So I will flag those so if people can go into those after the conference if you're out in the homes and schemes, and good morning to you. This morning is a really busy coffee and chat. We would like your questions on Slido. It's on hash B491, sounds like a road somewhere in the UK. And please send your questions through. And if questions are emerging through, I'm going to be asking Sarah and Emma to advise me of that. Basically, what we wanted to do today, and we ideally wanted to have this coffee and chat sooner after the managers' conference than we've been able to do, but it's really to feedback on the conference and to feedback particularly on the strategy. When we launched the strategy in April, we said to you all that what we would do is we would come back October, November time with a summary of progress to date, and that's really what we wanted to take you through today. We will circulate the slides from this morning, but I will also circulate a 4-page document that's just got the objectives and the progress of the strategy in the 12 workstream areas so that people have got a handy, if you like, note in terms of that. So as you'll see, we're going to cover a full range of issues from the conference: brand, dementia, moment of joy, fundraising, words of wisdom, innovation, whistleblowing, safeguarding, culture, EDI strategy, Oscar awards, work-based qualifications, quality finance, and then a Q&A. And we're going to do it all in the space of an hour. Wish us luck. I'm also going to be handing the mic on to other members of ELT and SLG to make contributions as well, so you don't get bored with my voice. So here goes. We had the managers' conference in Hinckley in Leicester, and it was a really successful event. Not least because 8 of our colleagues managed to catch me when I leapt off a ladder, which is on the front of Staff Matters, as you will see if anybody hasn't seen it yet. But people came away feeling that they were clear about MHA's future direction, 97%. MHA is committed to improving care services, 97%, and that the conference was a worthwhile event, which is really good at 99%. It's not there yet, it needs to be 100%, but we're getting in the right direction. And this is the kind of comment that's typical of quite a number of the feedback that we had. I now feel part of a large family facing in the same direction with a clear focus. How I do it will be up to me, but having the courage that comes from knowledge of MHA strategies and support and encouragement will help me immensely. And I think that's the whole thing. The strategy will only ever be there as the framework and the guide to facilitate us all to be the best we can be and to deliver for MHA in the future. So in terms of the strategy progress, you will know from when we launched the strategy that these 4 core areas may not be emblazoned in your brains as much as they are in mine, but MHA and community, MHA enhancing later life, MHA fit for the future, and MHA people. When we agreed with the board that those were the 4 core areas of our activity, what we then did was scoped all the different things that needed to happen within each of those areas. And we then had to distill that down to a number of work streams to try and enable us to take all that forward. And that came down to 12 work streams in the end. And those work streams, each one is led by a member of the ELT, but it comprises a range of colleagues from across the organisation and at different levels of seniority within the organisation. Because what we wanted to do, in the same way that when we developed the strategy, that was an inclusive and engaged process, we wanted to do the same. And there's a number of colleagues in this room who will be involved in some of those work groups, and we put out and asked for nominations for colleagues to join them. So it's been really good to see how that has developed. So in terms of creating communities, I'm going to ask Dan, because he is the lead for that, to just give a brief update really on where we've gotten to with that, and I'll pass the microphone over.
Yep. Okay, morning everybody. I'll keep it as brief as I possibly can, given the number of work streams we've got to get through. But in terms of the Creating Communities work stream, there's been lots of work going on looking at how we're going to come together as one MHA. And it's worth saying there's already a huge amount of work already going on out there, and lots of projects and initiatives for kind of joint working and working across care homes and retirement living and live at home schemes. We've been doing some work to try and draw that all together. Jonathan Mace has been, I think a lot of you have had a Survey Monkey out about that joint work, and we've put a bit of a database of MHA community working together, and we'll be looking at how we can present that back out to you. But in terms of the formal work, we've got 2 kick-off events or launch events taking place. One on the 29th of November in Leeds and one on the 4th of December in Bristol and Mendip, where we're formally starting our first 2, what we're calling Vanguard or First Wave MHA communities. All of the home and scheme managers involved will know who they are and what's going on there. And essentially what we're doing is using those 2 areas as our testing grounds so that we can put together our formal frameworks, the formal outcome measures that we'll be looking at, the KPIs that sit underneath that, and testing out the different elements of the toolkit that will then be rolling out to everybody that demonstrate how we will be able to come together to work more in community with one another and as more integrated parts of the broader community. Yep.
Cheers. Thank you. So the next work stream is the one that is relation to brand, One MHA. And what we did was we set ourselves a number of objectives in relation to that. Too soon. One was that we engage across MHA to develop our brand promises and attributes and culture a more contemporary MHA in line with the strategy. That we develop a suite of core marketing materials aligned to the brand guidelines, that we test, measure impact and plan to share and deliver the vision of One MHA, and that we develop a community campaign to amplify MHA and community, which will link very closely to what Dan is obviously doing in Leeds and Mendip when we start to launch those. And those are very much about engaging with our staff, but also with our residents and scheme members and our local communities in terms of that. On the brand progress, at the conference, we were able to launch our new revised and refreshed logo. The rationale behind this, folks, is in pre-October, obviously this was our logo. And when we looked at it, and you will remember when we launched the strategy, and the strategy's, if you like, subtitle is Live Later Life Well. We felt that the whole thing to do with quality was a technical competence, but it wasn't how you experience it if actually you're experiencing our services in our homes and schemes, which is why we've gone for the new strapline of Live Later Life Well. And when it came to looking at the logo, clearly we are a charity. We can't throw money at developing a whole new suite that leaves part of our work old logoed for up to 3 or 4 years whilst we work through and churn through that. But also that we recognise that we needed to do something to make the logo look more contemporary, brighter, and softer and more engaging. And when we worked with colleagues through brand on this and through the agency we worked with, so we've shifted to the lowercase MHA. We've brightened up the logo. It doesn't really show it on this slide, but those of you who've seen it around, it's not quite the Barbie pink of the mugs that we've now got around the place, or the jotters even more so. But it's a lot brighter in terms of that. And we have launched it on the basis as well of everything now being consistent, coherent, and with very clear guidelines around how we utilise it out in the homes and schemes as well as through Epworth House. There is materials have now been launched. We've got a really good booklet. I don't know whether we've got any down here, but we need to get bulk buying them and sending them out. It's basically called Welcome to MHA. And what it is, it's got just a page on each of the core things we do. So our homes, our retirement living, our live at home schemes, our fundraising, our chaplaincy, our music therapy. And so what it does is it pulls together. So for the first time, we've actually got something when people go, what do MHA do? That we can actually give. And I've been testing it out. I've been going out to various places and it's really going down well. We've also obviously published just doing the letterheads and all the kind of like day-to-day collateral that goes out in terms of that. But the whole aim is to try and give that refreshed sense of warmth, and we've got new banners and things like that. So we're doing it in a very incremental way. One of the things that Nick shared at the conference was a similar sized organisation in our sector who are in the commercial sector had spent £500,000 doing this. We did it for a tenth of that cost and really kept it low and limited, but have given it, and we needed to do it in line with our new strategy. And the other thing in terms of brand is at the end of the session today, we'll show you the new brand film video. And so that is the thing that's on the common drive if people want to go to at the end of this, but we'll show it here at Epworth House. The next one is just about the next objective was about our property and service review. So I'm just going to ask Andy to talk about the framework. Andy's hiding over there in plain sight.
There you go. Thank you very much. Property and portfolio review. It's quite a big review, as you can imagine. All of our stock, all our properties are going to have to be reviewed. We've actually agreed the criteria we're going to assess each of our properties against and each of our services. But before we dive into reviewing them all, we're doing a quick phase one review to make sure we're collecting the right sort of data, the right sort of detail, and the right sort of granular level so that we don't waste too much time collecting data we don't actually use. So we've started that process on the first, it's about 20 odd properties to start off with. They actually cover all of our range of services. So if you're on that list, don't worry. You're on that list because you're a typical MHA property. So nothing to worry about there. We're starting to pull that data together to allow us to start rolling it out. If it's fit for purpose, we hope it's going to be, we'll start rolling that out in the new year. The whole purpose of the review is to come up with a longer term asset management strategy so that we can make sure we invest in our stock appropriately at the right time to the right standard, and it's very much in line with our broader strategy of one MHA in a community. Thank you.
Cheers. Thanks. So I'll give you a break on the next one, Dan. The next one is we then move to our next phase. So that's our first one, which is all about MHA and community. This next one is all about enhancing later life. And you'll remember from when we launched the strategy that the 4 key areas were about raising our standards, quality, impact and innovation, specialist services, fundraising and volunteering as one, and influencing society more broadly. On the first one, which Dan is leading, we are looking at establishing, and we have established an innovation fund to develop further work, and we'll come back to that in a moment. We are also looking at designing and adopting something called a happiness index or happiness measurement. Sounds a bit quirky, but we get, and we are, and Dan will talk about it later, in terms of our quality, we are doing really, really well as an organisation on the external regulatory frameworks that exist. We can tell stories, those of us who go out and visit and those of us in our homes and schemes, about the feel of the difference that we are making. But what we can't do is we can't quantify in any measure what the kind of qualitative or quantitative impact is of the work that we're doing. It will always be somewhat subjective because it's not a pure science, but what you can look at is how people are feeling from period to period of time and how their mood is and how they are experiencing life on a day-to-day basis. So we're starting to look into the research about a happiness index, and we'll be developing that. And what it will do is it will help us feed back to our residents, to our staff, to their family and relatives, how it is that the member of their family is feeling, but also it will give us more data to be able to then go for funding bids and actually evidence the nature of the work that we're doing, and then influence society more broadly, because we can talk about the kind of things like music therapy or chaplaincy, which are really making a difference. But at the moment, I mean, even the empirical kind of evidence around music therapy is very, very slim, but we need to add and be contributing to that debate. We know it makes a difference, we just can't evidence it clearly enough. And also, we're going to be looking at adopting a whole range of impact measures to ensure the consistent monitoring and review of all our work out there. At the conference, we were able to launch the Innovation Fund, and we did a really big exercise getting loads and loads of ideas out from colleagues across the room in terms of the sorts of things that we could be using to develop our work going forward. So what's the next music therapy? What's the next chaplaincy? What's the next piece of work around things like end of life or dementia that we could be engaging with? We started to look at the methodology for demonstrating impact in our live at home schemes, and also, as I say, planning this work on happiness and well-being based on social value research proposals. I'm going to hand over to Chris now, which is to talk about the specialist services in terms of spiritual care and dementia care. There's a slide on this as well.
Heading, yeah. Thank you, Sam. Good morning, everybody. As Sam says, there's a work stream on specialist services which I'm chairing, and that's really looking at 4 areas of work in particular, which includes music therapy, dementia care, end-of-life care, and so on. And you'll see here, particularly I'm going to talk this morning about the dementia strategy, and the key points are outlined on there. If you look on the intranet, you can read the document in greater detail. And David Moore, who's our lead, has provided me with a little bit of an update this morning. The key thing with the dementia strategy is it is ahead, as it were, of where music therapy is and where chaplaincy and spiritual care are in terms of development of a coherent approach by MHA. So really, dementia care is leading that, and the other areas such as end-of-life care, spiritual care and music within the life of MHA will follow a strategic development largely modelled on what's been done by those leading on the dementia strategy. So you keep your eyes and ears out because in the future you should see more work coming along, which is similar to the dementia strategy in terms of its focus and style. So just on dementia, to talk a little bit about this morning, Dave's provided me with some update notes. The main focus at the moment is around training and equipping staff to be able to provide the most informed and the most skillful dementia care that we can for those in our services. And as you know, and I'm sure you'll have heard David say, none of our services are unaffected or impacted by dementia. It's a very, very significant piece of the work that we do, and it affects the way in which we do everything else, how we provide care and support to people in later life. So the big focus really on training. So for example, there are now face-to-face workshops that have begun to be trialled in some care homes in Wales and the North East and the South Coast. That's already underway. And there's training which has started for live at home area managers and some scheme managers in dementia care. We've also got the Playlist for Life. Some of you may have heard about that, to train music detectives. Sounds slightly novel and interesting. Again, you can read more about that. But there are 2 pilots beginning February 2020 across live at home, retirement living and care homes. And the area 1 is West Midlands and area 2 is Wales and the North West. There's also work using digital resources to create what's called Book of You. So you can actually build resources for a resident or a scheme member that tell the story of their life, and perhaps as capacity and memory changes over time, that's a great resource that's already being created digitally that can bring to people familiar words and pictures and things of significance for them that can greatly help and improve the quality of their life. We're also using an e-resource for activities, and that's starting Amanda Weir's care homes in the South East. And lastly on this, there's work with British Gymnastics Foundation to introduce Love to Move. We know from all the evidence, the research and the data that physical movement, being active and continuing to be active as long and late in life as you can, has enduring benefit and continues to have benefits. So we're keen also to explore that. And I suppose that last point just re-echoes something that is particular for MHA about our ethos and our approach, in that it's holistic. You can never look at one of these things as a bit or as a part. They are interconnected, stimulating the mind, developing body activity and movement as we can, and also that commitment to spiritual care. So it's all really bound together, and I'm really delighted to be leading Workstream 05 that's looking at those special and distinctive things which in combination make MHA unique.
The other thing that Chris didn't touch on there was some of the work that's been going on in terms of our spiritual care. And over the last month, we've been running for the first time events called WELL events, which is worship engagement in later life. And these are events that we're putting on out in the community for people people of faith, so that they can come and learn more about how you actually lead worship within a context where people are increasingly struggling with memory and with dementia. And those have gone, we've had 6 events so far. They've been well attended. And I was at an event on Friday, which was about chaplaincy in the round. And somebody stood up at the end when we were doing the Q&A bit and said, I've got a question, but I just want to say, I actually found the WELL event fantastic. So then I've got a load of people coming up to me going, when are you going to run the next lot? When are you going to run the next lot? So it shows there is need out there, and we can make a real contribution to the work that's going on. So fundraising. So within the work streams, there's a work stream called fundraising and volunteering as one. And we are looking at the whole way in which we do our fundraising. We need to build up our body of supporters who are actually kind of current ones, not just historical ones. And we need to expand the range of ways that we connect with people. So that's both in a community sense, but also in a corporate sense. Some of the initiatives that we've got on at the moment are the Christmas Friendship Appeal. A number of you know at Epworth House signed Christmas cards on the 11th, I think it was the 11th of November. But this is an initiative which we're not asking our homes and schemes to do, because what we want to do is get our supporters, our staff who work at Epworth House, writing Christmas cards that we can then send out to our residents and scheme members, so they don't feel they're forgotten at this time of year, even if they've got no family, even if they're being made a fuss of by their home or scheme, but that there are others who are thinking of them as well. So that's going on in terms of signing those cards. So if you can bring those cards in signed, who's actually leading on that, Sarah? Do you know? Lucy. Ah, are you Mark? Right, okay. Mark's leading on it. So when Mark, do they need to, but what do they need to do? Just bring in cards that, do they need to put, they don't put names on them, but they just sign your name, add a message, bring cards in, and those actually will make a real difference to people in terms of making sure that they feel remembered. Another new initiative that we've got is the Yuletide Yodel. Yodeling is not absolutely necessary, but would be beneficial given that we've called it this. There are an awful lot of products out there from different charities in terms of raising money at Christmas and profiling at Christmas. And so between the 1st of December and the 15th of December, we are encouraging people who are supporters of ours. We're encouraging our homes and schemes to actually have these events. There are song sheets to go out to it, and we are looking at those as being also fundraising events, so people can come and donate and give money, but you can wrap it up as a Yuletide Yodel with all the paraphernalia that we'll be putting out into the organisation in relation to that. We're actually launching it tomorrow. Pam Rhodes, one of our patrons, is coming up to do some filming outside Derby Cathedral tomorrow with some people from Epworth House who are going up. But our main event for Epworth House is on the Thursday, the 12th of December, outside Derby Cathedral from 12:30 p.m, leaving Epworth House at 12:15 p.m, in terms of people going up to take part in that. And it raises our profile in the city, and it should raise our profile everywhere out. People are going to be doing it outside Sainsbury's, train stations, things like that. So that's another event that we are looking to take forward. And clearly, if homes and schemes get involved, that money can go towards their amenity funds. And then finally, this is a bit Epworth House centric, but anybody visiting from homes and schemes can take part. There's the Epworth House Christmas raffle. Every year we hold a Christmas raffle. I feel like I'm giving the church notices. Every year we hold a Christmas raffle using a number of items gifted to us by our suppliers, mostly friends of Andy and Simon, I would imagine, and Richard. Whilst the raffle rules mean that we can only sell tickets in Epworth House itself, we are extending the selling period this year to enable colleagues who visit Derby to participate. So please encourage your teams to get involved in this, and anybody who would like to volunteer for 15 minutes walking the floor selling tickets, please do so. And the flowers will be arranged next week by Dan. Right, Ben, stupid or not, I'm leading a probably 375-mile cycle next June. Sorry, it's in my diary. Basically, what we wanted to do was do something that could raise significant funds for the organisation and for our work that we do, and our charitable funds go towards like music therapy, chaplaincy, some of our dementia-specific work, and our Live at Home schemes. And we also wanted to do something that would raise profile. So this event will take place over 5 days. It will happen the same weekend as MHA Sunday. What we will be doing is we will be going from our first home, which is Rylands in Wallington in Surrey, and it will end up at Leeds at Morallerton, which is part of our MHA in community in Leeds. And lots of places in between. And every day we will call at 2 or 3 homes and schemes and at Epworth House in terms of that journey. We're looking at having between 15 and 20 core riders, but other people will be able to join for the odd day and cycle. We are looking at setting up a competition with our residents in our homes and schemes and getting them on exercise bikes and see if they can do more miles than we're doing. It's probably going to be about 75 miles a day. The reason I'm giving you so much detail, including the fact that you need to raise £3,000 in order to do it, because in terms of covering the costs, because it's a organised event with proper kind of outriders, so you don't have any accidents and you're taken care of through the whole process, is that what we want is 2 people from Live at Home, 2 people from retirement living, 2 people from care homes, and yes, 2 people from Epworth House to do this with. I want you to do it with me, please. We're also going to have 5 places for family, friends, relatives who might be really big on cycling. And we also want to get about 5 of our core partners, sponsors, people like Barclays, some of our building contacts that we've got, property people, to also participate in that. So it's a really good opportunity to raise the profile. We'll get lots of media going on, both locally and nationally while we're doing it. So please join me in this endeavour. And it will be good fun. And we're doing it at a nice time of year as well. So the last time I did one of these, it was in October, and it was a bit touch and go on certain days. But please let Lucy know. I think it's before the 16th of December. If you are interested in it, or if you want to find out any more details. I'm going to send out an email later today or tomorrow with all those details in. And I think Dan might be going to do it as well, are you? Dan's going to do it as well. So that's not the 2 from Epworth House. So if anybody out there would like to do it, please let Lucy know. So we're just trying to up our game and do stuff that people can connect with and can feel part of what we're doing. Oh, we'll also call in at church on Sunday morning as well. But we won't have to stay for the whole thing. But I don't know how we're going to cycle through a church service. We'll make that one up as we go along. Right, Words of Wisdom campaign. Another thing that we launched, and this is in terms of our influencing. Another thing that we launched at the conference was this is a campaign that's going to go live about the 20th of January. And what we wanted to do was take the ground a bit in terms of the profile that older people can have in terms of being redundant or in terms of their views, their wisdom not counting, and actually they are repositories of huge amounts of wisdom. So what we've done is we've collated a load of thoughts, reflections from people, taken their photograph, and this is a kind of mock-up of how it may look, but always try to look after each other and don't hold on to any arguments. Try to sort difficulties out before you go to bed so you don't wake up with them. And you could say that about don't leave work in the same way every day. But just really nice stuff that actually shows and puts out a positive image of older people into the community. So Pav's leading on that, and that will be going out, as I say, in January. Somebody sent a question in on Slido about, I think it's something to the effect of, how happy are you that there's so little in the government policies about people in later life and the adult health and social care agenda. Dan and I, in September, both attended the party conferences. Dan went to the Labour conference. I went to the Tory party conference. We had slightly different experiences because of the who was there. It was absolutely fascinating to be in that. And the way I've started to talk about this with people is, I think adult health and social care has become a bit like climate change. It's kind of a bit of a huge inconvenient truth, which because it's so big, people don't quite know how to address it. So what we've got in the government manifestos that we've got so far is broad sweeping things of, yes, we're going to attend to it. There's actually been a green paper that's been supposed to be worked on for the last 18 months to 2 years. There's now rumours that that's actually going to be shelved, and at some point they're going to put out just a white paper and go for a bill. But nobody is addressing the fundamental question of how you're going to fund it. They're not also addressing, and you may have seen over the weekend, there was a whole load of stuff about immigration. How are you actually going to make sure that we've got the right workforce? And actually, if you put a bar at 30,000, which is what was originally put in place, although Boris Johnson said he's going to address that, if you put a bar in at 30,000, well, a huge number of people who would potentially be working for us would not come above that bar. And so there are huge challenges. We have got, Pav has prepared a 5 points, which are the kind of points that we're appealing to the government on. They're very much in line with what the sector's doing. I'm linked with Care England and also with the Association of Retirement Communities, and we've put in very similar things. It's about workforce, it's about actually a settlement for adult health and social care, it's about how you join up health and social care because the two are so contingent upon one another, and it's how you look at the whole issue of personal care, which is obviously kind of domiciliary care. We do that within our retirement living settings, but that has a huge impact on the sector. So yes, we are disappointed, we are not surprised, but it will be interesting to see how the conversation gets shaped. And obviously we know that a certain B word is very dominant within the conversation, but there are other issues now starting to come through. When I went to the Tory party conference, we ran a fringe group, as Dan did at the Labour Party conference. And I said to them, and I don't know whether any of you were watching it on the news when they had the Tory party conference, they got those big banners hanging up saying, invest in policing, invest in education, invest in health. And I said to them, the reason why I'm here is because I wanted to come with a canister of spray paint and go invest in health and social care, because the two are so synonymous with one another. And the grassroots Tories got it. Whether that translates into policy and agenda and whether it translates into the Labour Party in a meaningful way is another set of issues. I mentioned it earlier on, but I'm just going to ask, so the next slide, spot the difference. But I'm going to ask Dan to talk about the Innovation Fund.
Okay, so I think Sam mentioned earlier, we launched the Innovation Fund at the conference last month. And what we're looking to do is really to identify the next big thing for MHA. So 15 years ago, it was music therapy. Obviously, we have chaplaincy across all of our homes and schemes. But what's the next thing that we're going to be driving out and rolling out that's going to make a real impact for people and really enable people to live later life well? in terms of what we're looking to do, we did a piece of work at the conference where we asked people to come along with some kind of pre-thought about ideas to kind of kickstart this process. But we're doing some work within the Raising Standards work stream to develop a framework where people can make applications to an innovation fund. What we're really looking to do is identify potential innovations which will work right the way across MHA. So we're very proud of music therapy, and we talk about it a lot as part of our specialist services. I know that the work that Chris is doing in the specialist services work stream is looking to broaden that out to think about music as a whole rather than just music therapy, because we want to be able to talk about innovations that will be of value to our residents in care homes, to our residents and tenants in our retirement living schemes, and to our scheme members out in live at home services. So thinking about the criteria for the innovation fund, we're looking for things that will make sense for people and will enable people locally to improve their services and help people to live later life well. But actually what we're really looking for is things that we can then pick up and roll out really broadly and think about how they can impact on all of the people that we support. There are some, again, some joined up work going on here. So some of the things that came out of the work that we did at conference were things like the Love to Move with the British Gymnastics Foundation that Chris has already referred to. And we're already looking at how the Innovation Fund can support the rollout of Playlist for Life and the Book of You, the online person-centred kind of biography work that's going on. And the other thing that really came out loud and clear at the conference in terms of an innovation for the future is green care. And again, there's some work already ongoing out there in the field, particularly at the Wilderness, looking to develop how we can look at green care. But that's something that really will roll out, and we think that that's a real potential for the future to support people in care homes and retirement living schemes, and support people in gardening clubs and green care clubs in live at home schemes as well. So there's a real sense that we're starting to join these work streams up across the specialist services, how we can come up with projects for innovation and rollout in the future, and then also, really importantly, how we measure the impact of that. So how do we put these into our new MHA communities and have really meaningful measures so that we can demonstrate that they have an impact for people, and going back to Sam's point of earlier, how they impact our happiness index and our happiness measures. Yeah.
Just had a really interesting question that's come through on Slido. The question goes, hang on a second. So you need to see the slide in order to make sense of it. Are those MHA branded trainers? If so, I'd like a pair. Not yet is the answer. But on a more serious point, I think the way that some of the branding went down, the mugs, the jotters, the aprons that we had for when the members of the leadership team served all the managers there at the drinks reception in the evening, we do need to look at how we market MHA more successfully, because we've actually now got a really nice kind of colour palette and logo. Apologies, somebody on Slido as well felt that I used the word Barbie pink in a pejorative way. I didn't, sorry. It's reference to the fact that I lived with a lot of Barbie stuff when I was when my little girl was growing up, and it was a much used colour. So apologies if anybody felt it was pejorative. It wasn't meant in that way. But we have got a whole range and breadth of stuff now that will start to develop, and so Mandy and I need to look at our trading issues about whether or not, because a lot of people have come back. Managers took mugs back to their homes and schemes and saying, how do we get hold of more of these? So actually we do need to kind of get our act together in relation to that. So the next thing then was fit for the future. Continuous improvement. What's really happened in this one, and this is about a whole mentality. It's not just a project, but it's a whole mentality for the organisation. But where it started, and I've referenced it before, and as I know Jason has, we looked at 9 processes with colleagues from homes, from our care homes, and then with colleagues who worked in support services here, and looked at the join between them, taken out a load of steps in those processes. We're now looking at formalising those and rolling those out. And we're also looking at bringing in some expertise hopefully through the apprenticeship levy, in terms of training staff more generally around how we use a continuous improvement approach to all the projects that we do. So we build it in as we're doing stuff. Corporate assurance is another area that we've got a work stream on. I'm just going to ask Mandy to briefly provide an update on where we're at in relation to that.
Hello. So we've had a number of workshops and meetings on the corporate assurance work stream so far, and we've got a workshop day planned for later this month with BDO, who are currently our internal auditors, to work on the corporate assurance framework. And what that's about is we're trying to move from a risk management sort of way of looking at things to an assurance framework. So that's sort of evidence-based, so that we can give the board assurance that everything that we need to do across the organisation is being done in the right way, and to really help to embed that across the organisation. Because lots of people do risk management every day. They don't think they're doing risk management, but they are. So we just want to give people an easier way to sort of know that that's what's going on, so that we can then have a complete set of KPIs and get that done. Once we've had our workshop, we're going to take that then to the SLG group in January to get some more input from them, so that we can then hopefully get our sort of the bones of the framework together for the end of this financial year, so that we can then embed that across the organisation next year.
It's okay, no, you're all right. Sorry. So they're so keen, these ELT members, to get their two penneth in. Victoria's going to talk a bit later about finance, generally. Don't feel crushed. Okay. Oh, by the way, congratulations. I think this is your first coffee and chat, isn't it? So Victoria is our new Corporate Director of Finance. So yeah, the next one is the pricing review. We've talked already previously about how we've looked at all our care homes to look at the pricing and where that fit is in the market. It's been really important that we've done that, because it's actually enabled us to levy some additional income, which then supports the work we're doing across the organisation. But we're needing to look overarchingly at our retirement living, at our live at home, in terms of actually the pricing that we're using, so that there's a greater degree of consistency and transparency in terms of that. And the last two, MHA people. These are really important areas of work that we're doing. And actually now we've agreed with the board that in terms of bringing some broader perspective and some review against other organisations operating within the sector, but also outside, we're going to do a formal HR review, which will look at our terms and conditions, it will look at our culture, it will look at our ways of working as an organisation, which touches on some of the issues that came up in terms of culture when we launched the strategy. We've addressed some of those, or started to address some of those issues. Clearly, the Engaging Leaders programme is part of that. There's a question that's come in off Slido, which is, are the members of the ELT who sponsored each of those sessions going to do some sort of review? What's the learning that's been done now that the programme has been going on for a year? I think about 250 managers have been through it so far, 98% kind of satisfaction and a perception of value in the training. And Anna will be leading us as we come to the end of this year in a review of, okay, so what's the perception that we've taken away as a group of leaders in the organisation of our engagement with those groups? Because we've gone in at the very start of each of those cohorts, and then we've gone in at the end of those cohorts and responded to questions and issues that have come up. So it's an opportunity for us to collate that. So there's the HR review that will support this, and which these will feed into. So what we've been looking at is the employer brand, clear on what it means to be part of MHA, demonstrating ourselves as an inclusive employer that aspires to be as diverse as the communities which we serve. So part of the review will be looking at our T's and C's. It's something that we've done kind of in different phases as we've gone on as an organisation, but it's looking at our whole approach to our conditions that we work with colleagues. And there's certainly a desire from the board that receives a fresh view, because we want to be an employer of choice out there. We're very well regarded as an organisation. It's really good that we pay the real living wage to all our staff, and it's good that we are positioned as well as we are with a number of our salaries for most parts of our work. But there's always more that we can be doing, particularly around things like sick pay, terms and conditions in terms of leave and things like that. The other thing that's really important within this is about our EDI, our Equality, Diversity and Inclusion approach. And we need to make sure that we are reflective of the communities that we work in, those we support, those who work for us, because by and large, certainly from the over 100 schemes and homes that I've visited so far, our population of residents and scheme members is predominantly white British, but there are significant numbers of our staff who are from very different ethnic backgrounds. Certainly we've got 11% of our staff who come from Europe. Obviously that's been very important in terms of looking at the validity of their papers with the issues and kind of brinkmanship of the different dates for leaving potentially. So those have been issues that we've needed to look at with them. But we have a considerable number of our workforce, and we need to make sure that our organisation is supportive, caring, empowering, and that not just one part of the organisation, but across the organisation and right through all the different layers of management, we are reflective of the diversity of those communities, ethnicity, sexual orientation, belief, so that we're a really holistic and inclusive place to work. So I'm just going to ask Bev just to give us a bit of a summary, because we launched the EDI strategy at the conference. I'm just going to ask her to give you a bit of a summary of that.
Thanks, Sam. At the conference, as Sam said, we launched the EDI strategy, which I'm really proud to be a part of. And we did a session where we asked people to share some of their own stories about why EDI was important to them. And I think certainly I felt, and a lot of other people in the room felt, that it was a real powerful moment for us all to recognise that everybody has something that means a lot to them. And as an organisation, if we can embrace that, that then gives them a sense of belonging. So it's very important. Sorry, I haven't done the clicky, have I? So it's very important that we launched the strategy. So the strategy is now on the intranet. There's a little microsite that Emma helped us deal with. And what we have done within the strategy group, so it's many people are involved in the strategy group, quite a diverse range, as Sam said. We've got people from all over the organisation. And the strategy is underpinned by 3 core values. So we embrace the diversity of all of our people, everyone, colleagues, services, service users and visitors, and where each individual is comfortable to be themselves and release their full potential. This means an environment in which is accessible to all and reflects the communities in which we work. Am I moving away from the camera? Sorry. Is that my best side? MHA will challenge inequality in all its forms and will promote dignity, respect and understanding within our organisation and our wider community. And MHA will attract, select, retain a diverse range of talented people and will value the contribution made by everyone. How we're going to do that is by focusing on some key areas and looking at some outputs. So the important thing is the strategy isn't just for the strategy group to own. Every individual within MHA has the ability to really bring the strategy to life. So it is everybody's strategy. So we want everybody to promote the strategy. I can't say strategy any more times in that sentence, I don't think. Engage with it and ensure that there's an inclusive culture. We've provided some toolkits to help support the launch and also to provide understanding. Not everybody understands the full concept of it all, and it's really important that we help educate people. So we've got a few bits and pieces on the intranet site now, and we're adding to that continually. We're going to establish EDI focus groups. It's really important, as we said, that everybody is part of the strategy. Everybody's got a story and probably one or many areas that are important to them. So we want to hear from individuals. We are looking to appoint an EDI manager. We're going to start the recruitment in November, December, I think, so shortly. And they will then lead on the strategy with us. And of course, all of this will be underpinned by our policy reviews, which will have EDI at the forefront of when we are writing policies, and we'll look at our data to ensure that we are meeting our outputs. Okay. And shall I move seamlessly on to work-based qualifications update? So I've been asked to do this, so bear with me a moment. So in the absence of Richard and Ivan, they just wanted to give us an update on the work-based qualifications. So as you can see from there, we've currently got 333 people who are undertaking work-based qualifications across 3 strands. Strand 1 is for non-qualified care staff, and 217 are choosing this route. And there's a mix of level 2 and level 3. Strand 2 is for qualified senior carers and nurses looking to undertake the ILM. And there are 68 currently undertaking this, 15 of which are nurses. And there's also a strand for level 5, leadership and management. Strand 3 is a range of catering, maintenance, housing and community programme coordinators. And within this group, there are 5 Epworth House colleagues doing their professional qualifications. So 58 people there. You can see the annual investment, £826,000. We've had few dropouts, I think it's 5.6%, but our training providers are saying that this is relatively low for our sector. Feedback from our managers is that there's a high level of motivation and a lot of support from our managers who are involved. Our partnering organisations are saying that MHA are one of the most engaged and supported organisations. Okay, and I think that's it. If you are interested, contact your manager, or if you go onto the internet, you can have a look at the Learning Zone about the work-based qualifications. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm very conscious that this is a lot of downloading information for you this morning, but I hope it gives you a tag to then talk to within your teams and your managers, and when we send out stuff, that it gives you a base for further conversation. The really kind of heartwarming bit of the whole 2 days of the conference was obviously our Oscars, and you'll see in the staff matters that there's a really nice profile photograph piece on each of the recipients of those across the board. So I'm not going to go through those, but it did seem a nice opportunity that one of the teams at Epworth House did receive a support services award commendation. So I would like to ask Jonathan on behalf of OST to come out and receive the commendation award.
Thanks very much indeed.
Good man, good man. Well done.
Hello.
Excellent.
Hello.
Yeah.
This is Liam from OST.
A real life OSTer. But it was really wonderful, and it was great to see the people being celebrated for all their contribution. And are the video clips on the wide drive, the video clips? There's this lovely lady, just to pick out one, who kind of just, she doesn't, to see her, you kind of see this person who is quite quiet and humble, and then the next thing you do is you see this video of her driving around on a big red tractor around the grounds of the home, and it's just wonderful, kind of like the contribution, the level of commitment, the real sense of team that you see the people there evidencing and hearing the stories of their commitment over many, many years. I was very fortunate to go out to Egbert in Leicester, where our Volunteer of the Year won an award. So it was really good for her gardening, and the home garden is just fantastic, which she's led on getting into such a good ordered state. So that was really lovely. Dan, quality. Oops, sorry. There we go. Yeah.
Okay, very quick update on quality. I think this is the third time I've come to see a coffee and chat, and I feel a little bit like a stuck record. It's a good stuck record because it's the same positive story that we're giving again, which is we're maintaining that 91% overall. I just thought it might be worth reflecting a little bit on the context of that very quickly. I mean, you can see if you look at the numbers there, that's about 130 services that have got some kind of inspection rating from CQC or CIW or Scottish Inspectorate. No inadequates at all, and the overall 91%. We've now been at 90% or above for 16 months, so it's nearly a year and a half, which is a fantastic achievement to maintain that. Especially when you consider that the national average for care homes of good and outstanding is 82%, and the national average for retirement living good and outstandings is 87%. So we're in both areas, we're kind of 7% above, and we're right up the top there in terms of that quality profile. So that's really fantastic news, but I'm going to insert a note of caution into that, which is I just had a look over the last few days at the most recent ratings that we've had come in. And if I look back to the last time that I spoke here, we've had 15 ratings that we've received. And of those 15, 12 of them are good or outstanding, and 3 of them are requires improvement, which translates into not 91%, but it translates into 80% and 20%. I don't think it's the start of a trend in the wrong direction, but actually it is just a reminder that we can't take that 90% for granted. So where we've got our QA reports out there, and where we've got service improvement plans in place, we really need to be making sure that we're absolutely delivering against those. And I'm also aware, and I'll take some responsibility for it, we've just been through a restructure, which has changed some of the nature of the way that we go about doing our business. So we no longer have the QBP role, and we've got our quality improvement managers out there supporting homes in the care home side of things. Yeah, things remain the same in retirement living. But the new structure requires that we've got a QA department and some quality auditors out there doing the QA visits for us, making sure that we've got action plans in place. And while I know that we're in the process of recruiting to those roles, we don't currently have them. So I think you're probably aware, but it's worth reminding, we do have 2 interim quality auditors that started with us a couple of weeks ago. So Sabrina and Sue, I'm sure you've got their full names from the emails that Helen Press has sent out. But please make them welcome, and it'd be really interesting to see what the QA scores look like over the course of the next 2 to 3 months with a real fresh pair of eyes. So having 2 quality auditors coming in without that history, without that QBP history, really coming in to have a look at, with that external perspective, how we're doing and what those QA scores come in at. So fantastic news, please keep it up, but a word of caution. Thank you.
Morning all. So as always, saving the best till last, we've got the finance update. Yes. So the numbers are very small, aren't they? But you can see here, this is year-to-date performance to period 7. We're now reporting against the Q2 forecast, which is our latest view of what we're going to do for the full year. That's the column in the middle. You'll remember, I'm sure, when I spoke to you last, we were just starting to report against Q1F. So I'm just going to remind you, because there are some quite big variances there between budget and Q2F, what the movements were that we made. So the first one is that we moved the 3 million challenge out from, which was a late challenge given to us by board. We moved that out from finance and put that out to operations and other central areas. So you'll see that movement primarily within care homes net profit. And then we changed the way that we accounted for resales within housing for sale. So you'll see there's quite a big movement between budget and Q2F for housing for sale of 3.3 million. So moving up to actuals compared to Q2F, you can see that care homes income It's just slightly positive. So our occupancy is slightly below where we thought it was going to be, which is it's been on a slight decrease over the summer, which we wouldn't necessarily expect and which obviously we're not thrilled about, especially as we go into winter where we know that occupancy, we have a greater risk on occupancy. So that's something that we need to be aware of and focus on, ongoing focus. The positive variance there has been driven by higher average weekly fees due to a high mix of self-funders. That's really positive, so we need to maintain the focus on that. Within retirement living income, the positive movement there is because of higher purchased care hours that we've seen. So we've seen that quite consistently throughout the year, and obviously that's a great thing. We need to make sure that we keep that going. Looking then at total net operating net profit, we've achieved nearly 6.9 million, which is just over £500,000 favourable to Q2F. Within that, we've seen some positives from the cost consciousness message that we've been delivering. So there's some good things in there. We've also seen some favourable variances from central cost savings. So, for example, in training, and there have been some vacancies, so we're seeing benefit of those. As always, within care homes specifically, we just need to manage and focus on the hours, staffing hours that we're delivering. So they've been creeping up over the last couple of months, and we're seeing quite a significant agency spend. So the controls that we've got in place in those, we need to maintain the focus on that and try and manage our agency spend where possible. Moving down then to other income and expenditure. Net fundraising there, we're seeing a variance of 410k against Q2 forecast, which is primarily driven by the legacies. So we've seen a lot of legacies come in. They're the Epi Downy bits I talked about last time. And we've still got a strong pipeline for those. That's really positive. Net housing for sale and other income and expenditure are pretty much where we want them to be. So that's good. And other charitable activity. So live at home, we accrue that to the latest forecast until we get the actuals in at December and then do a piece of work on that. So it's quite a positive message. We've got a total net surplus of just shy of 10.5 million, which is £1 million favourable to where we thought. But we know now we're coming into the second half of the year, it's going to be a real challenge for us. We've got occupancy challenges. We've got the challenge of the 3 million, a lot of which is to be delivered in the second half. So well done for what you've achieved so far, but keep the focus and let's power on through to year end. Following on from that then, I've got actions as at P7, which is something provided to the ELT. It's a lot longer than this, but these are the key ones I thought I'd talk to you about this morning. So this is the focus for operations and everybody else for the rest of the, from P7. So as I said, care homes occupancy, it's fallen to 91.7% in the month, despite all the embargoes being lifted. So the actions are for the care home managers to identify where there are unexpected occupancy issues and work on those. Finance are also taking part with various other areas of the organisation to look at commercial reviews and get a really thorough understanding of why there are occupancy issues and what we can do to support and resolve those where possible. Care Homes Agency. In the month, we increased hours utilised up to 30,000, and year to date, we've spent 5.3 million on agency. Obviously, we all know some of this is avoidable, and there are controls in place now to reduce it and mitigate where possible. But it's just asking area managers to closely monitor agency spend requests and look at those in line with agency, in line with home occupancy as well. Area managers also then supporting recruitment gaps with HR to reduce reliance on agency. And we're also working with agency providers to review vacant post supports, looking at billing and try and reduce the cost of agency by using other agencies where possible. Retirement living purchase care, we said that's a positive, has been year to date. However, in period 7, we've lost several key care contracts. So we just need to make sure that we're managing staffing efficiency as those drop off. Retirement living empty properties, there's been ongoing occupancy decline since April, so focus on filling those empty properties, and those are particularly in housing association which isn't something that we normally see. And housing for sale, finally, got lower than expected unit sales, particularly in Mickle Hill and Victoria Court. So they're being addressed by upweighted marketing plan support. Thank you very much.
Right, we are overrunning. Sorry for that, folks. Just wondered if there were any questions additionally to those that we've picked up from Slido. There's a couple of issues which are Epworth House centric, which I'll pick up when we go off Zoom at the end. Yes. Yeah. Not at this present time. We're looking at our chaplaincy. I mean, our chaplaincy is called All Souls Chaplaincy, so it's for people of all faiths and beliefs. So our chaplains are equipped to provide that support. So they're not exclusively focused on that, but given our heritage, I think all our chaplains are from a Christian heritage background at the moment. Yeah. 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 I think the difficulty and the challenge with that is that in each home we only have resource for a chaplain. I think where we know that we have not got a particular expertise, what the onus is on our chaplains to actually find the resource in the local community and to do that bridging to make sure that those people come into our homes and that they are supported in that respect. So they take a kind of holistic view in relation to the work that they do. So a really good example, and I know it's not humanist, but in terms of a couple who moved into a predominantly white care home, but who were from a Muslim background. So what happened there was a link was made between the chaplain and the local mosque, and some people were then coming in regularly from the mosque to support the religious needs, but also some of the other additional cultural needs of those families. So I think our chaplains are bridges out into the community. They're not the be-all and end-all, because we know one size doesn't fit all quite clearly. So yeah, so I think we are keeping a view on that in the round and how best we support people from a whole variety of faiths and beliefs. Yeah.
Just to say, we do at the end of the year a faith and belief audit across all our residential services. So every year we have a snapshot and we do reflect on the deployment and connections that we're making to provide that support for people. So we do have a firm basis of knowledge about who's in our services and what those needs may be. And I think as MHA community develops, I think there's some interesting ways of exploring the diversity of chaplains and the ways in which they work together across an area.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. Any other questions from folks? Okay, well, I'm going to encourage those of you who are out in homes and schemes to go on and have a look at the brand video, which we'll play here in a moment, and also the Moment of Joy one if you haven't seen those already. So, and then I will just say a few words and then we'll close off. So take care, homes and schemes. Hope you have good days, and thank you for joining us, those of you who are able to.
This is Sally. Sally lives with advanced dementia. She needs full-time care and experiences increasing problems with her memory. Things used to come so easily to her, but now she often becomes confused and frustrated. MHA music therapists give people like Sally invaluable moments of joy, value them as an individual, and respect their dignity. They can help unlock memories, find ways of easing their dementia symptoms, and give feedback to help care staff support and comfort their residents. MHA Music Therapy is funded by charitable donations, and with your support, we can help more people live later life well, because everyone deserves moments of joy.
We are MHA, a national charity enabling people to live later life well. Through specialist care homes, thriving retirement living, and community support services, We put people at the heart of everything we do.
We're good at working with people and bringing people together.
It's like family. You do grow to love your residents.
Supported by thousands of caring staff and volunteers, we are unwavering in our commitment.
It means a lot to me, and I feel like giving back something to my community.
We are passionate about the care and well-being of people in later life.
Just so rewarding, just watching them smile, dance, and they're happy.
We're really grateful to the people that volunteer for us, for helping us.
Through donated and fundraised income, we are able to provide life-enhancing support services, such as music therapy and chaplaincy. Every penny of our surplus is reinvested to make life that extra bit special for the people we care for and support.
Everything is just perfect. I'm just so grateful that my partner is able to stay here.
Have a cup of tea and a bit of cake and a chat. It's a nice friendly atmosphere.
I think people that work in care genuinely do it because they are caring people, and they are rewarded by their job.
They're all lovely without exception.
We respect. We nurture. We inspire. We enable people to live later life well. We are MHA.